Good afternoon all. My name is Ken Gisiawan. I'm acting in the capacity of Assistant Commissioner, Criminal Division. I am responsible for a number of divisions, one of which is the Criminal Investigation Department, the CID, and other units under that division. The TTPS has taken note of the number of concerns and comments raised in the media in recent times with respect to robberies, house break-ins, larcenies that the media term as home invasions. So we refer to these reports or these crimes as home invasions. The Commissioner of Police earlier this year would have formed a team under my supervision. She mandated that we look specifically into these reports and to use all the resources available to identify these persons, gather the requisite evidence, and to have them placed before the courts. We understand that these reports are discomforting to members of the public, they are distressing to business owners, to the extent that some would have expressed the view of packing up and leaving. However, the TTPS would like to assure the members of the public that we are doing all within our capacity to identify these persons and to bring them before the courts. So a team was formed under my supervision, and the members of this team comprise members of the Criminal Investigation Department and members of the gang unit from various divisions within the TTPS. So we are networking with other external stakeholders and the other apparatus of the national security setup. And based on intelligence received, as of the 2nd of August, 110 persons have been arrested and charged with a number of offenses: robberies, possession of firearm, house breaking, burglaries. 10 persons were charged under the anti-gang legislation, and 9 of those were charged with being members of a gang. What we have done, the TTPS that is, we would have used the statistics that are available to us, we would have used intelligence, and we would have used evidence-based policing, and we would have identified the modus of these people. We have found that they have been leaving their normal place and migrating to other places, so that crimes were being spread in different divisions where it normally happened. So the Commissioner, together with the DCP, I and other executive members of the TTPS, would have sat and come up with various strategies in order to arrest the situation of home invasions and bring a level of comfort to the members of the general public and by extension the business community. The recent arrest of these 10 members was a result of a report that was made of an invasion in Marabella. And one of the new strategy, one team, one TTPS, a different model of policing that was adopted under Commissioner Christopher, was that we network with the various arms of the TTPS. And this is one of the strategies that was employed. And you had members of the ARP, the Highway Patrol, the Southern Division Task Force, the Central Division Task Force, the Central CID, the Southern Division CID, and other members of the TTPS receiving information and networking on the highway to intercept these 2 vehicles and arrest 10 persons. And because of this new strategy and other strategies with the use of technology, we are having a measure of success with respect to home invasions and the perpetrators. So we are, in fact, pushing back with a greater degree of force that might have ever seen before. We have increased visibility, in terms of police out there on patrol, police officers in uniform. Traditionally, we have officers who are detectives and are now being called out to patrol in uniform. We use marked vehicles. Where we don't have marked vehicles, we're using the flashing light as a means of deterrence. And we are trying to be as visible as possible to lend that level of comfort to the members of the public. We want to assure you, the media, and also the members of the public, that the TTPS will continue to pursue all these persons who are hell-bent on disrupting the peaceful lives of law-abiding citizens. We have been mandated, and we continue to pursue vigorously these persons. We are using technology and the other apparatus of national security to identify the migration patterns of these persons. Some persons would have gone underground, but they have not been forgotten. We are continuing to work tirelessly until we bring these persons to justice. With respect to the holders of firearm users license, the TTPS would like to advise that persons who are holders of FUL to act responsibility. The law clearly outlines the circumstances under which you can discharge a firearm. You can discharge a firearm. The law, Firearm Act 1601 states that in the lawful protection of your person or property, or the person or property of someone else, you can discharge your firearm. Otherwise, it is an offense to do so. And it also speaks to the use of force and the reasonableness of the force that is used in any circumstance that you may encounter. So again, we want to advise people who are holders of FUL to be responsible in the way you secure your firearm, in the way you use your firearm. Because it is enshrined in the legislation of Trinidad and Tobago, the Firearms Act in particular, Chapter 1601, that there are some criminal culpabilities that you may have to face if we do not act, if we act ultra vires that act, so to speak. Well,
okay, so I know you all, the members of the media, have a lot of questions to ask, burning questions. As per normal protocol, we ask that you state your name, identify the media house you're representing, and then proceed to ask the question. All right.
Good afternoon, Mark Bassan from CCN TV6 News. You spoke about criminal culpability. In a recent incident, lady shot an alleged intruder outside her home. Are you saying then that there is a possibility that a husband who owns a licensed firearm could face some kind of charge? And also, can you give us an update as to if there's been any developments in terms of what is the police's next step in terms of this particular matter and the woman who's, for the time being, looked at as a victim?
Each circumstances must be treated on its own merits or demerits. In this particular instance, an investigation has been launched, statements have been recorded, CCTV footage has been recovered, and the investigation is ongoing. At some point in time, this investigation is headed by the Central Division. The police will seek an audience with the Director of Public Prosecution. As we know, the Director of Public Prosecution is the only person who can institute criminal proceedings or discontinue criminal proceedings. So based on the circumstances, based on the evidence that would be elicited during the investigation, the officers would engage the attention of the DPP.
Mr. Gishuwan, would you say, judging from your experience and thinking back, was the police ever faced with similar situations like this? And if you can, give us an idea of what was the outcome of those situations?
Like I said, so each situation would depend on the merit and demerit of the particular situation. So I am unable to tell you of any particular situation and what was the outcome at this point in time.
No, I understand that, I don't know if you're aware, the opposition leader made some comments last night at her meeting. Is the police looking at any possible breach of law that she might have committed in that speech? And if so, for the dissemination of the media who is going to perpetuate that speech later on tonight on the newscasts and on radio bulletins, what advice you have for them?
Well, to be brutally honest with you, I am unaware of any statement made. So I am unable to answer that.
Well, we contacted the UNC, who incidentally would usually have their website with the speech and so on online. And things were taken off from the website, right? And that is why I asked the question. So we were wondering if perhaps it's because there is some kind of, looking into what the statement she might have made last night in reference to, loading up the matic, cocking it and knocking it on them, and then knocking it again. Using some words from Trinidad songs, of course, she claims is, the present-day social commentary of artists. And how does that feed into the public's perception of how they interpret those lyrics and being said on a platform?
Well, I don't know if my colleague here is familiar with the statement, but I am not. So, Mr. Francis, Senior Superintendent, Attorney at Law, may I address that?
Thank you very much, ACP Gisewan. With respect to any comments that may have been made in the public domain at this time, the police service at this time is not in a position to elicit or make any statements in relation to those comments you spoke about, Mr. Bassant, at this point in time. No determination has been made with respect to any possible offense or criminal liability on any individual who has made any statement.
I appreciate that.
Good afternoon, Doris Polo, CNC3. So, coming out of a political meeting, the NTA, the wife of Gary Griffith, would have spoken to having received some sort of report, whether informal or otherwise, that her phone was tapped. And she was calling on the police commissioner to respond to those claims. Can anybody give a comment on that as to whether they have any such report that there was any tapping going on of the phone of Nicole Dyer Griffith?
As far as we are aware, no one's phone has been tapped. This information hasn't been brought officially to the TTPS, and there's a procedure, as you would well be aware, in relation to extracting information from person's phone. Ms. Nicole Dyer Griffith is not under any TTPS investigation at this time, and as far as we are aware, no tapping of her phone was done, nor have we received any such information.
You would have spoken to anybody in the SSA to confirm such? I mean, that the SSA would be one of the parties that would usually be informed when you need to listen to conversations of supposedly people who are involved in criminal activity under the Interception Communications Act.
Again, as Senior Sue Francis could allude to, there's a process to tap a person's phone, and it's a very stringent process. You have to go before the High Court and get an order to do so. We have not engaged the High Court, as far as I'm aware, in any matter in relation to Ms. Griffith. So as far as I'm aware, I cannot say that the phone has been tapped.
Well, based on Mr. George's comments yesterday, it seems that the state refused to answer whether or not they had in fact tapped Ms. Nicole Dyer Griffith's phone. And I think trying to help my colleague and trying to kind of clarify whether or not the police was given any instructions whatsoever, because this matter went to High Court and a lawyer was speaking about it yesterday.
Mr. Abasan, you alluded to that the SSA is the only apparatus that would listen on to persons and so on involved in criminal activity. The police would not receive instruction from anyone to tap anyone's phone. And there's a process, as my colleague alluded to earlier, to do that. It's not a willy-nilly function that I don't like you and I will tap your phone. There's a process involved, and the process is subject to intense scrutiny, and scrutiny before a high court judge. So people may make statements, but it may or may not be true. But as far as this particular situation is concerned, the Commissioner of Police has no knowledge about those statements.
Thanks for clarifying that.
And any more questions from the floor? Mr. Francis, is there anything you wanted to add?
Just to indicate, Mr. Bassan, that the provisions of the Interception of Communications Act constrain any authorized officer from disclosing to any individual whether or not any interception of communication has or is or will be taking place. There's a criminal liability attached to that, 1. 2, the Strategic Services Agency as well is guided by its own legislation, and they are also constrained in law, both under the Interception of Communications Act and under their own Strategic Services Agency Act, not to disclose any sensitive information or intelligence to anyone, including the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, on any matter.
So you're saying then that there is a possibility that my phone might have been tapped or is tapped. I'm just using myself as an example, and I would never know, even if a question was asked through the High Court. That's my question. I think that's the clarity we're trying to seek here. Because
And I'm
saying on one hand that under the IOTA, which I'm familiar with as well, the SSA, that we are speaking about if a police or a unit is given the authority based on the judge's consent to go ahead and tap into a person's line, and later on somebody finds out that their phone has been tapped and they want clarity, you're saying that if it is revealed on that side. Yes, so there is a possibility that somebody's phone can be tapped, but you will never know, correct?
I cannot say that.
But your clarity just now was spoken.
I clarify the law.
Good answer, Mr. Francis. We leave it there.
Any more questions from the floor? Mr. Gishaman, you would like to add anything before we close?
We want to thank the media for being here and for being understanding and to assist the police in fighting the criminal elements out there. And we look forward to working with you in the future.
Okay, so this concludes this press briefing. We want to thank you for coming out, and do enjoy and have a safe and productive weekend. Thank you.
This is TV6 News on the spot.